too long ago, Ariel Bissett had put up this video about the YA bubble and how she felt like she was trapped in this bubble of only YA fiction. And I've been thinking the same thing myself about the booktubing community. How it seems like everybody's just trapped in the same bubble. Like that's all they think about when it comes to booktubing is just YA. And I really appreciate the fact that she put up that video, because she admitted how she felt like she was very awkward and trying to discover other books out there besides YA, because there are a lot of good books out there besides just YA. And that's one of the reasons why I started doing recommended reads, because I figured, you know, I could introduce people to some great books that are out there that are not really YA. So that's kind of why I wanted to make this video, not about recommended reads, but more or less underrated authors. Now, I don't know if these guys were like, not all of them, but some of them, a few of them were really popular back in their time, but some of them, I'm not sure, because it's like, they're authors from like the past, but I think they're just really worthy of recognition still to this day, because they looked at literature as a true craft, and they were really good at what they did, telling stories and writing, and the story still makes sense. One of the first underrated authors I wanted to mention is Frank Herbert. Frank Herbert is known for writing the book Dune, or more or less the Dune Chronicles, the Dune series. If you have never heard of Dune, Dune is, I would consider it a dystopian book, because it's about a 15-year-old boy. It's set in Earth's, you know, far distant future, and it's about a repressed people who live on this planet called Arrakis, and they basically, the Emperor basically just uses this planet to harvest this, they don't know where it comes from, and it's called the spice. And the spice has these properties of making people live like a lot longer, and it gives them like psychic abilities somewhat and stuff like that. And Paul, he doesn't know his potential yet, but he's kind of like a Jesus type character, and they call him the Kwisatz Haderach, and he's like the savior of these people. And the Dune series basically just follows how his legacy and what happens to humanity. His son, with Kevin Alexander, maybe, I can't remember his name right off the bat, but helped develop some prequels to the Dune novels, which are pretty good too. Frank Herbert also wrote some other very interesting stories. There's only like one of them I think I've ran across that I didn't really care for, and that was White Plague. But he writes some really fantastic stories. Frank Herbert was a conservationist, so he was about, like, you know, being green and all of that. And this is way back in the 60s and 70s. Another underrated author I wanted to mention is for people that are fans of gothic novels or horror, or fans of Edgar Allan Poe. H.P. Lovecraft was a huge Poe fanboy, and it's pretty evident in his writings. If you've never read anything by H.P. Lovecraft, I've read like a collection of his stories, and there were certain ones that just really struck me as being like Poe. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't a copycat, because H.P. Lovecraft wrote his own way and his own style, and he had his own ideas, which, pretty shocking even, is he created the Cthulhu mythos, which some people who've never read Lovecraft actually believe as fact and reality. That, I think, is pretty damn cool and pretty damn funny that people believe it, and it's something that this guy made up in a book. Whole different take on writing, and he wrote this one short story that was about basically a zombie. You find out at the end of the story that the guy was undead, but he didn't know that he was dead. because he thought he was like locked in this tomb, didn't know where he was or who he was or anything. And that was a pretty cool story. He also wrote another short story called The Shunned House, which is a different take on vampires, because they weren't like vampires who were coming trying to suck your blood. They were people who were like buried under the house, and like their spirit or whatever was like a vampire, and it caused this like mold and mushrooms to grow under the house that would literally suck the life out of people that were inside the house. I thought that was a pretty damn cool story. And he even wrote like a science fiction story, like I think it was called The Colors Outside Space, that was about this meteorite that had crashed in somebody's well, and it was like a blob that just like sucked the life out of anything and everything. So yeah, I mean, H.P. Lovecraft, he is just got so many stories, and he's pretty damn famous. Like, I guess you could say he's got like a cult following. Because underrated author I wanted to suggest and mention is Richard Matheson. You may not have ever heard of Richard Matheson, but I bet you've seen a movie or two that was based on his writings. He is the writer of I Am Legend, and he also wrote Hell House and What Dreams May Come. This guy, he is just such a craftsman when it comes to writing, that when I read his What Dreams May Come story, it just brought me to tears. He's an excellent writer that I think is much unappreciated nowadays, and that like Hollywood saw his potential and made like a number of films based on his books. And Stephen King has been, has said that he was influenced by Matheson, and also he mentioned he was influenced by Lovecraft too. Just a quick little rated author I'd like to mention is Philip K. Dick. Yeah, I know, what a last name, Dick. Philip K. Dick is another author who you may not recognize his name, but you've probably seen a movie or two that was based on his writings. His most famous movie that was based on his writings is The Blade Runner. Blade Runner was based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Philip K. Dick lived like a rock star. This dude loved to party, and he wrote some pretty crazy fiction, like science fiction stories. And I guess not only did he like to party, but he was pretty damn paranoid too. Like, he kept a lot of like his stories and stuff locked up in a safe, and like he'd invite total strangers into his house to party with him. Like, this guy was totally like a coke junkie. Like, he loved to party and he loved his coke. And one day, I guess he got ripped off, and somebody stole his safe that has an unpublished story that nobody knows what happened to it. It just disappeared. But yeah, he's another very, very good author that I would highly recommend. He wrote Total Recall, which was novelized as We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. And he also wrote, for those of you who are fans of historical fiction, he wrote this story called The Man in the High Tower, which is about World War II and where the Axis wins. And Germany possesses the east side of America, and Japan controls the west side of America. It was a pretty interesting story, one that I really liked, and he's another one that I recommend that you should check out. So those are some underrated authors I figured I should mention to you guys. I hope you weren't offended by, me mentioning the YA bubble thing. My intentions are not to offend at all. I just wanted to introduce you guys to some other dimensions and other worlds that are pretty damn cool. I mean, I've read all these books, and a lot of times when you booktube, people only mention stuff that they're currently reading, stuff they want to read, or whatever is trending at that time. But like I said before, a lot of these books are still stuff that I think is worthy of attention today, because they're what I would consider classic literature. Not just books, they're literature. I would say that they were that good. Questions, comments down below. Let me know what you think. Have you read any of these authors?